So actually, I was going to announce that the next exercise thing we have is we're going to be doing a shooting schedule by August 9th. That's Monday, August 9th. We're going to use the information from our shot list that we just made and the storyboard, and we're going to make a shooting schedule out of it.
Arden said
That'll
she
be
had some family duties, so she's running a bit late. Also, didn't get to the green screen, but I have my shot list.
Okay. Well, once she gets in, we can do that. Let me see 1 second. Pull up some stuff. All right. Anyway, so we're going to be making a shooting schedule based off of this scene, just a fake one, based off of the shot list information and the storyboard information that we have. And that way we can kind of get into the habit of what that's going to look like when we're making it for real.
Right.
Using all these forms to actually make a real shooting schedule. So.
Okay.
Oh wait, no, I didn't. I didn't delete it. I'm an idiot. Okay, never mind. Stupid. Nada, honey, nada. It's me being stupid.
Oh, okay. Anyway, so then another thing I'm going to announce before we go ahead and start getting into everybody's stuff is just Thursday we're going to be going over how to film a dialogue scene, crew deal memos, and something I just added today, which is a day out of days report, which is just basically a form that you use to, I believe it's a form that you use to like keep track of how many days each actor is going to be there on the shoot days.
Oh, okay.
Once we look into that, we'll talk more about that. But I added it today, so if anyone wants that information, I'll send it out to you guys later.
Yes, please do.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, so V stuff is first. Where's V stuff? I have it on here. Okay. So this is the V shot list. She's taking the information from her storyboard and she's turning it into a shot list. So let's see what we got. Shot number 1. Can you guys see this, by the way? Is this
Kinda
visible? Shot number 1's a full shot, no movement. So when there's no movement, you can put static, V. That way everything's filled in with something, just to keep everything on track. And Michael and Arlene enter the kitchen. Shot number 2 is the medium close-up where Michael embraces Arlene. Shot 3 and 4 is a medium close-up where Arlene recoils and turns away. So would that be 2 shots or 1? Like, are you planning to change the angle of the camera during that? 2. So that means you would be changing the angle on it? Like you would switch where the camera is? Okay. So yeah, static just means that there's no camera movement. So if there's no camera movement, you just put static under movement. Okay, so then you got the next one is, so it looks like you're missing shot 5, or at least the number shot 5. So I don't know if that's something, but it goes in shot 6, medium close up, zoom in, and Michael tries to calm Arlene. Shot 7, 8, and 9 is a medium close up, a tilt with action and a push. Arlene turns and Michael whispers, and then she bites him. Shot 10 is a close-up of a high angle where you tilt up, shot of Arlene at Michael's feet. So it starts at a high angle, tilts up to his face. Okay, cool. And then shot 11 is the full shot with the zoom out, fade out, kitchen, Michael distraught, and Arlene dead. All right, cool. And you think that all these shots would cover the entire scene?
What you mean by that?
Oh, she was putting it in order of Lynn's side. Okay. I'm just talking to V, making sure she, like it's that all these shots would cover the entire scene. Like there's no other changes of a camera or anything that you were thinking of, because otherwise that would need to be in the shot list as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So if it's 11 shots, that's good. Cool. All right. Does anybody have any comments or questions on any of that?
So in a case like this, if say, you know, you might want to, as you're doing the shots on set, you realize like, you know, you might want to add something. You can do that during, I guess, when you start doing a so-called a dry run, because you said sometimes what it'll do is practice some of the shots with some of the other staff members, just to see if the camera's going to be lined up in the right position for blocking and all that. And if you realize like you might be missing an extra shot, is that possible? You can like do it like that, or it has to be done on the shot list?
It doesn't have to be done. The shot list is just mainly like a guideline of what you want before you get to set. But
Okay.
but it is important because you do take the information from this kind of thing and make your shooting schedule, and that will be affected if you're trying to add or take away shots. If you're taking away shots, you know, you got a little more leeway to have a little more time maybe. But if something's taking more time than everyone thought it would, and then you're trying to add shots on top of that you forgot to add in, that can become a problem, because then the schedule can get out of whack, or you have to add another day or whatever, you know, things like that.
Okay.
So yeah, it's best to try to pre-plan everything, but of course you're not gonna be able to plan everything out, especially given the location. So you'll probably will have to change some stuff around. But this is just like a general starting point to try to keep in mind what you want.
Gotcha.
And V, your question is, my order okay with according to Lynn's size in your anyone's opinion? Yeah, I mean, really, the shot list, we'll be reorganizing it for the shooting schedule, because then you start thinking about the different sides of the room you're doing. So if you're two shots, you know, if shot 11 and shot 2 are going to be on the same side of the room, you'll probably shoot those in order, and then you'll shoot the others in order that when you do the reversed angle, because then you don't have to move your lights around as much. So once we start talking about that, thinking about that, that would be a different order of ways to do the shot. So it depends on if you're going to have a shooting schedule or if you're just going to have a shot list. If all you had was a shot list, I would say the order to do it would be how it's going to be set up in the room instead of the lens size. But if it's not, if you're going to have a lot of different forms and you're just going to use this to make your shooting schedule, then yeah, whatever order you want should be fine. It doesn't have to be in order of what shot number it is or anything like that.
Is that difficult to?
Does the shot list include all angles, over the shoulder, close up for editing? Should I have included that? Yeah, most do, because you want to know what kind of shot it is. So it depends on like what the shot is. If it's an over the shoulder, then that could be different than something else. And if it's a close up, that is definitely different than anything else. So
did you respond to her second question?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Brent, were you going to ask something?
Yeah, I was going to say, so all right, the way V did it now, you mentioned like you don't have to do it in order. So now, is that becomes difficult a little bit when, as far as like, for the actors and doing their lines, if you got to shoot kind of like a jumper scene because you want the camera, or 2 scenes are shot on the left side of the room, but they're not in order, is, I'm just trying to figure out.
Yeah,
like,
that's what the main, I would say that is a main difference from filming film from acting in film to acting in theater is film is not shot in sequence. It's not shot in order. So it depends on the location, and then also within the location, it's going to save a lot of time staying on the same side of the room. So you might have, the end of the scene and the beginning of the scene, you might have the camera in the same area, and then you would have to shoot. They might say, okay, we're going to shoot, the first scene and the last scene. The first scene, you guys walk in, it's a husband and wife, and they love each other. And then the last scene, maybe they're, on the verge of getting a divorce because of a fight they just had. And so then you have to flip just like that, from scene to scene, shot to shot. So that's where it does just start to get difficult, because then you're gonna have to go back to the loving them again, like right after that, when they flip the cameras around and all that. So yeah, it's very tricky to get into that, I would assume.
Right.
But yeah, does anybody else have any questions or comments, or V, do you have any more questions? Yeah, I think Arden, I think she's gonna come in and have it, and then once Sarah does it, we can see theirs too. V's just asking, like, she's interested in how many other shots everyone else has. No, honestly, V, like, if you wanted to, like, some people would want to do this whole thing one take. Maybe they would want to do like one shot. It doesn't really matter the amount of shots. It's just making sure you get all of the coverage that you need and want for the scene. Mel said she had about 15 shots. I think I have about the same. And, I could have had 3 shots if I really felt like I could stay on the same part of the room for the whole time. And, if you wanted to look like a play, or you wanted to look like one of those older movies, you could do even like 1 or 2 shots.
Right.
They would often hold their shot the whole time and just have the actors move around within the frame, kind of like a play.
Right.
It really just depends on what you want.
Isn't there also the case of, like, you don't have to have or does this not qualify for the ShotList as well?
What?
Not having to have every single, that probably wouldn't qualify for the ShotList, right?
ShotList, I would say, needs it all, because you really start to use this for your shooting schedule, and you need what the cinematographer is getting ready to do and what they want. So that, like Brent was saying, you can't just, like he was asking, I mean, you can't just add in a bunch of stuff. You can't take away a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Unless you really are sure that it's not going to work, because you want to try to get a general sense of everything before you get on set. Because timing is everything once you're on set.
Right.
Okay, so that's her shot list, and I'm gonna do her green screen. So how did you say you set this up, V? She's hypnotizing us all. She used something. Is that an app? It's called Unscreen.
Unscreen.
And she used some magnets. Okay, so one of the problems with the magnets, because they're green, the reason they're green is because they are reflecting light from the background. They're metal, so they're picking up some of that color and reflecting it back in. So it's kind of hard to key that out without keying out those as well. And that's why they look all green and a little, they don't look like metal. They look kind of like an alien goop or something.
So those are magnets.
Yeah, she's saying those are magnets.
How did she set it up?
I think she said she used a green paper, right? Okay, yeah. So she used a green paper, and then she put the magnets on top of that, and then edited it out with Unscreen.
Wow.
So yeah, the only thing I would say is if you're doing it that way, I would just say the other thing about it is you try. I'm assuming that the magnets were on top of the paper. And when you're doing green screen, you kind of want the subject to be away from the green screen, whatever you're using for the green screen. That way it's not reflecting any of that light and it's easier to key out.
So you're saying she was supposed to try to key.
She said the awkward silence.
So she was trying to key out, you wanted her to key out the reflective light from the magnet.
She was trying to keep the magnets in and just key out the background. That's what green screening is for. So like you have a green screen in the back. She used a green paper. And then you would key out the background so that you could put those magnets wherever you want in this like spinny space, like using that background that she's using.
Could have been the app that did that, maybe.
It could also be partly the app, I feel like, yeah, because it is kind of like on the sides for some reason, doing the green edges right here. And I feel like that wouldn't happen in normal circumstances, but it depends on lighting and stuff, so it could.
Right.
But yeah, does anybody have any questions or comments? Or V, do you have any questions or comments? I will say for everybody, it is just good to practice the stuff because it is hard.
It looks hard.
It is. And if you're ever trying to use it, you want to kind of like get these, you want to fail so that you can, know what not to do next time. So it'll require practice after practice to get it right. And that's why you're doing it before you try to do it on a real set. You don't want to film with an actual actor and then get home and realize that's not going to work, or that you have to do some extra work to get it done, and it's not going to look as good as it would if you got it right.
Right. Good job, V.
Yeah, definitely. Like for the stuff that you had, definitely good. And just for your first try, just to get into it. All right, guys. That's Vista. No, it's all right. Mel said it's good. It's good to practice. Better than her. He's a perfectionist. He didn't finish it by the deadline.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know. On a real
It's so
set,
good that you guys shame yourselves. That way we don't have to.
On a real set, it's good to be a perfectionist sometimes, but also you're not ever going to get it perfect. So it is kind of a give and take with that.
I feel like when like you're saying, you made a very good point. At least you fail a couple of times, so that way you'll get it right, or you'll have an idea what not to do next time. Because sometimes you work to try to get it perfect, and then you put so much work and it fail, and you're so upset. You're like, oh, I did so much. And he's like, no, that's what you're supposed to do. Go back and try again.
Right. Yeah. No, especially because it's the first time, so it's hard to get it exactly right anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm going to show you guys ours. I'll start with my.
Okay, I just want to make it very clear that
I'm going to do the shot list first.
I am not an actor. Okay. But when we get to the video, I'm not an actor.
Why would you say that now? Now you're putting the thoughts in my head. Now I'm looking for all your faults. All your flaws now. I'm gonna look for.
Friend, it's you. You're gonna do that no matter what. Oh shit.
Exactly. So you didn't need to mention it.
I just wanted to keep that in mind. Keep your expectations very low.
All right, here's mine, and I based it on my my storyboard. I keep forgetting that word, but anyway, storyboard as well. I just took the storyboards I already made and then just kind of converted it into the shot list. One thing I'll say is I kind of like I'm a more visual person, so I think I like the storyboard a little better to kind of give me a I don't know, to kind of show me like what I'm looking for when I get to set. Because on the shot list, it's harder to tell like where in the room it's coming from, and I think that's why people I think Brian was talking about how he liked it better that way, because then he has more control once he gets to
with the shot list.
Yeah, with a shot list, like it doesn't have as much information. Well, it doesn't have as much information about the look, like where the camera is and stuff like that. It has more general, just like what the angle is, what the shot type is,
right?
Stuff like that. So it's not as clear, I guess, if you're like but it gives you more freedom when you get to set it up the way you want. Like, you want a medium shot and you want it to be on focusing on Michael when Michael hugs Arlene, then you can set it up on, towards the door or over towards the counter or whatever angle you want to do in the room, compared to a storyboard where if that room doesn't look like this, like in my storyboard, then, I have to kind of figure it out on set. But given that, I think I would be better with this and then just adapting on set, but I would probably use both. But I was just trying to throw that in. So on the shot list that I made for you guys, I sent it out to everybody. I went ahead and used that to fill in mine. I just did like the shot numbers. I just did the number of shot because I was going to use the shooting schedule next. And I knew that. So I was just like, I'm not even going to try to reorganize these yet.
Okay.
But I would start to do that. I even like the estimated setup time and the number of takes and all that. I kind of stopped doing that because I was thinking about it. And the setup, like I said, it's not going to take as long for the setup if it's shot from the same side of the room. It's going to take more time when you do the other side of the room, when you have to move everything. But if you're doing it from over here where this shot would be, like on this side of the room, and then you have another shot that's over here, I think it's at the end, I have another one like that, then those two shots would be in sequence, and then they wouldn't take as long to set up because you just kind of move the camera over, or you don't even have to move the camera sometimes. So I kind of stopped filling in all that until I thought more about the shooting schedule, and then I'll start reorganizing all this and figuring out estimating like times. And
so with the shot,
it's really hard for me because I don't really know, and I don't think any of us really know yet. I mean, Brian might know, and Jorge and maybe James, but like I've done some stuff, but I don't really know how long it would take to do it more professionalized, like the way we'll do next time. So I don't really know. Estimated setup, I would say, maybe 30 minutes, maybe an hour for the first shot. And then after you set everything up the first time, it starts getting quicker. I do know that. I just don't know what the exact time or what the estimated time would be, really. But that's something we'll have to think about when we're shooting our own shorts and everything. So it's something that we should start thinking about now.
Right.
And then the first time we shoot, we can see if it was right, if we're wrong, and then we can start, making these forms a little more accurate next time, that kind of thing.
So you made the form, the same format for the shooting schedule?
Yeah, the shooting schedule I have in here somewhere.
I was just asking. You don't have to find it.
I actually did want to show you guys. I forgot to, so thanks for reminding me. Here it is. So the shooting schedule is kind of the same format. It just shows more of like a overview of what it would look like, which location you're at, and the physical address you'd be at. And then you kind of go in and do all the different information for how long everything's going to take.
Right.
How many shots you wanted and all that. So, and what scene it is.
Okay.
So yeah, I did send this to you guys as well. So once we start working on this before the 9th, you can use this one if you want, or you can make your own, whatever. It doesn't matter. But yeah, so on mine, I followed my storyboard, and I just did it through in sequential order of the shots. I is for interior, D is for day. So all of them are inside and at day. They both walk into the kitchen, and then I have establishing shot and wide shot. And the subject, I put that just means like who you're focusing on. You might have two characters in a shot, but who's the main focus? And so sometimes it would be Michael, sometimes it would be Arlene, depending on which shot I was going with. Pretty much all of my angles were eye level. They were all just straight on. The only high angles I have are at the end, whenever Arlene dies and Michael runs over to grab her and hold her. And then the movement is just like, the static. And then I followed through with the storyboard of if I was dollying in, or if I was panning to the left, or trucking to the left or right, or just remaining static. And then the last shot, I had like an arc shot. And then I have equipment, just kind of what equipment you would need for those shots. That would also cause you to like figure out This is also, once I do my shooting schedule, it's going to be figuring that stuff out too, because you don't want to have to constantly reset up dollies and dolly tracks and all that. So if you can just move a dolly track over, you'd probably do that in order, depending on where it's at within the scene. Tripods are easy to move, so that doesn't matter as much. But stuff like dollies and sliders, I don't know. It depends. Sliders easy. Sorry, dollies and I don't know. I can't think of it. Cranes. Dollies and cranes. If you have to set those up, you kind of want to see which shots you can get in order and which you won't. But for the rest, you kind of just want to do it in order of where the camera is within the space. And then I just put the lens, what kind of lens would be in each. I thought 50 millimeter would work for most of these shots. For some of the wider angles, I'd said maybe a 35 millimeter, maybe a 24, depending on how small the room is. Because once you go wider, it makes the room look a little bigger. And then the 85 millimeter lens to close in on like Arlene's face and then Arlene when she dies.
So the 85 millimeter would be more of a close-up shot. Those are for more. Okay.
85 millimeter is like you can have the camera farther away and still remain at the same
close
distance, or you can like bring it closer to them. Yeah. And it makes the background kind of condense in on the subject as well. We were seeing that effect a few weeks ago whenever. So if you have the higher your lens, like the higher the number on the lens, the closer the background looks to the character as well.
Oh, okay.
So on the 35, the counter might look like it's a few steps away. 50 millimeter, it might look like it's 2 steps away. 85 might look like it's right behind her. If she steps back 1 step, she'll hit into it. That kind of thing.
So you would want to do the 85 for a green screen if you're doing a close-up?
On a green screen? Yeah. You could. Well, it doesn't, you don't have to, but yeah. If we did an 85 because it's just easier. It also separates the other thing that a higher lens will do, like a higher number on a lens will do, is make the background more blurry. It makes the depth of field a little shallower. So then if you're focusing on your subject, the background gets a little more blurred out. And if you have a green screen that's really wrinkly, it might help to kind of blur out those wrinkles so that the whole thing looks unison, so it's easier to key out.
Gotcha.
And then I just added like whatever notes, like I went low key on the far wall. If it's going from a medium shot to a medium close up, I'll put that. Or if the background condenses because it's like zooming in on Michael. Extreme close up on Arlene's eyes when she's crying. And then just like the general descriptions of what's happening, sliding it to break the 180 degree line, 180 degree rule, I mean. And the frame rate remains the same pretty much throughout the whole scene. The only time you change your frame rate should be like if you're doing slow motion or like a time lapse sequence or something like that, then you might change your frame rate. But other than that, you just leave it the same throughout the whole scene. Usually throughout the whole project.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, the frame rate, most films film at 24 frames per second. And online content can be 24 frames or 30 frames per second or 29.97, I guess. But yeah, does anybody have any questions or comments on the shot list? Oh, and then character IDs was the last thing. That's just like which characters are in here. Michael's number 2 and Arlene's number 1. So if they're both in the shot, it would have 1 and 2. If it would just have Michael, it's going to be 2 only. And if it only have Arlene, it's going to be 1 only.
So if you had a background with some extras in there, you would include them extra in the back of the shot. Like if like sometimes people.
So that you would just have you would have an idea of that, but this would just be like the subjects and the main thing within the frame. The extras would go on a different form.
Even if they might be in frame?
Yeah, I don't believe you put it on here because this is more of a focus on the characters.
Gotcha. Okay, makes sense.
Because like if it's a pool scene, you probably already know there's going to be, you know, some background.
People in the background, right.
But you're like, which of the actors that we actually need? And that's
Right.
when you make like your other forms about which actors are in which shots and which days they're needed and all of that. So that's why you wouldn't put extras in it.
Yeah, because I seen The Rock when he was done filming Black Adam. He left, you know, they didn't need him no more, and they were just shooting the other actors, and you know, I was like, that's cool. I didn't even know they could keep shooting for weeks later and without the main character because he did all his shots already.
Yep. Yeah, they often do that, especially whenever an actor has a very condensed schedule that they need to get done quickly. They'll try to
Right.
shoot their stuff first. That also affects the shooting schedule. So if you have an actor that can only be available for 2 weeks, but you're trying to shoot for 4 weeks, you're gonna
Right.
have to try to make sure to get all their shots within those 2 weeks if you can. So yeah, like a lot of stuff goes into the shooting schedule, but for us, it'll just be what we have already down pretty much.
It's kind of mind blowing to me because coming from mostly theater, it's like thinking about how you're gonna just be chopping the stuff up. I'm so used to continuity with the acting, you know, like you just keep going through the scene onto the next lines. To be chopping and starting from, you know, the back and middle and going to front.
Yeah,
it's interesting.
It'll be very different. Yeah. It's a very different way to go about doing it, which is why some people say, you know, like certain times, certain people will think that they can do it just because they've done other types of acting, but they're completely different. It's like going from film to theater and thinking you got it but theater, you have to know all your lines, you have to do it all in order, and you have to do it all on the spot. You don't have any take twos and all that. You have rehearsal. You don't have like, oh, cut, do it again. You messed up. Like, no, you don't have that.
Yeah.
So it is very different. Mel asked, I noticed you didn't estimate shoot time. What's a good way to determine that? So I was saying I didn't do that because I was thinking about the shooting schedule, and I was thinking like I'll figure that out more when I'm getting ready to put this into the shooting schedule.
So
I need to think more about what side of the room the camera's going to be on
and how long it takes to shoot that shot, right?
Yeah, so like for some of them, you know, it might be 20 seconds in the actual script. Like once it's actually screen time, might be 20 seconds. Shoot time might take 30 minutes. It might take an hour if it's, you know, a really hard shot.
Right, and then you might not get the shot that you might want with the actor. You got to go and kind of like talk to them again, so it could take longer at times, right?
Yeah. So Mel, I have like estimated number of takes, and then I was just thinking like, you know, if you give each take about 5 minutes, it would take about 15 minutes once you have it all set up. But it really depends. I don't know exactly how to determine that yet. What?
There are like apps where you can plan your shot list and you can kind of create a rough estimate. And
I feel like experience.
Yeah, like actually being on sets and knowing how it goes. Because even if we look at like a professional set, they're going to be quicker than an independent set. They have more people. They have more. They have more experience.
Staff, right?
And there will be things you can't account for that you're going to be like, oh, this scene will probably take rough estimate this much, but there are certain things that we might not account for, or certain last minute things. So it's almost always going to be a rough estimate, I feel like.
I would say always give more time if it's a big dialogue chunk, because that means the actor needs to be on point with it and they might mess up. So always give a little bit more time to that. And then if it's a camera movement or if it's a hard camera movement, you know, you want to think about that and give more time. And if there's any visual or special effects, that, you know, give a lot of extra time because you got to make sure that's all right. And then do your shooting time like that. But yeah, I would just kind of always be, until we kind of get a better sense of it, give more time to everything than what you really think. That way, once you get to
set, in everything, even if you have a better sense of it, every thing that I've ever seen, they always say, always add an hour, 2 hours a day, maybe, to your shooting schedule, depending on the size of your film. Sometimes they'll even add an extra week or month. Like you always have to overestimate, because that way, if, for example, if you're giving a company, a production company, they're going to ask you, oh, how much time? Brian said this multiple times. They're going to ask you how much time you need. If you tell them, oh yeah, we're going to like be 3 days a week, blah, 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 and there's any last minute issue, there's any scenes that you need to retake, or there's anything that you wish you would have had more time to work on because you had like a last minute idea, or the actor had a take that you thought was interesting, but you
Or it
don't
was
have
raining that day. It was
Yeah.
raining that day.
Yeah.
So there's always going to be stuff that you're not going to be able to account for. And especially if you're working with a company and they're asking you for an estimate, they always say to like give them a little bit more time than you think you'll need.
Mhm.
Not like a crazy amount, but just enough so that you know if anything goes wrong, if you need any extra time, you have it. And you're
Right.
not rushing to get that out for them. And it's also
But
And I would
I
say
feel like
for
it
like
works.
I would say for like a day of shooting, account for maybe like 8 hours, 10 hours at most, but don't try to
Yeah.
account for 12-hour days, because that's just like it starts to wear down everybody.
Right.
So unless you have to, try to do like 8 or 10 hours a day. 8 would be the best, but 10 if you think you need it.
Yeah. I get, like you said, it become, I think of you guys, I think it's a little bit of both. I believe, in my opinion, experience and just giving extra more time. Because like you said, sometimes one day the shot will move smooth. You'll be done in like 30, 40 minutes. And then the next day it could take 2 hours for another shot,
Yeah. And it also depends on how much the people have set these things up.
Right.
If you set up a camera 100 million times, you're going to set it up in like 3 minutes.
Right.
If
Right.
your first time setting it up, you might take 30 minutes. So
Right.
that kind of, that type of stuff depends on that too.
Yeah.
But that's where
This is what-
that's where the estimate comes, the setup estimate comes in. The shooting
Mhm.
estimate's more of like once you have it set up, which is why I said like more time when you have a hard
Ex-
camera move or
Mhm.
a lot of dialogue, because then they might mess up, and you want to
Mhm.
give it extra time thinking about those
They will mess up. Yeah.
They might. And some people are good. They just go straight through. But yeah, some people like it's hard to get it down, or like even getting the focus right. There's a lot of things that can go wrong when you're doing movement
Mhm.
along with character movement and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
difficult shots at extra time. But yeah, does anybody else have any questions or comments?
Okay.
All right. So the next thing we're showing is, where's it at? Yeah, exit out all this stuff. The green screen we did.
Can't watch.
Yeah.
I did not. I'm not an actor. Okay, people. I do not like seeing myself on camera. I do not feel comfortable.
And there's how it is behind the scenes. So, I think the snow, I would get a better snow if I was going to do this. I was really going to do that. That's what we got. And since it's on black background,
It was expensive.
But yeah,
That's cool.
so we kicked out the black background, and that's where these big white chunks are coming from in front of her. So it looks like it's snowing. And then I just got some free stock.
My hair looks weird
for
because
the
I
background.
had one that the light was bouncing off of, so I had to take it last minute. And Coda was like, "Do it again," but I didn't have time to fix my hair, so it looks like helmet.
So you said you did the black to get the snow looking out. What you do?
Like, so this was a free thing I found on the internet. But you see, like, it has a bunch of big, huge white chunks of fake snow. And so when I kicked out the black on the background, it had like, very big chunks of white, just like
Right.
so.
You can always edit that in After Effects, like soften it, or like maybe if you don't have After Effects, probably something similar, like edit, like soften it and just like change the shape. There's a lot of like stuff with like
I did
particles.
take away some of the brightness and stuff because that was making it smaller. I just didn't notice how big some of these chunks were.
I'll probably just soften it.
Yeah, I probably should have done that. I have Premiere Pro and After Effects, but I have like older versions, so they're like the full versions, and I don't have it where they connect, so it's annoying to like export and then get
Oh,
it. So
So you
this,
got
I
to
was
get it
just like,
together.
this is good enough.
That's
But
good enough. But I need you to get it together. Get it where it connects, okay?
yeah, but yeah,
No,
there's
but
definitely
Priscilla,
a
I'm
bunch of
ready
things
to
you can do to edit stuff like this. It's crazy.
I'm
how
ready to
much you can-
criticize.
I still don't know a lot of it.
I'm ready to
Dude, you do
criticize
not need
Priscilla.
to, okay? I did that take like 30 times. I did it differently every time.
30
I was
times.
sweating in that jacket. Yeah, because at first we got the green screen like positioned weird or the camera was too close. And it was a lot. Okay. I did it a lot. And I was just like, that was one
Why
of the
you
last
take off
takes.
the hat? I like the one with
Because
the hat.
The hat was interfering with the green, and it was too
Oh.
bright on the background.
God, I
Oh.
stop cutting that to that thing.
So I was like, oh, so we tried a few different things. We tried turning off the light for the green screen. We tried taking off our hat, and then we just ended up with the one we got. This
Should
one.
have put some snot on her nose, like the icicle when
Darkened
And I
her a
know-
bit, took out a little bit of the saturation, tried
Like,
to mix her into the.
It also looks like I
She
need to
way
pee
too
because
much
I'm
that,
like
right?
jumping. So, but it's because that's what I do when I'm cold. Like I move around a lot, you
That's
know, to get the blood
convincing.
pumping. So
was
it's just
convincing.
like, okay, but it looked like I was needing to pee for real. Like it looked like I was
Yeah, but usually when it's cold, you do want to pee, so it looked convincing.
okay.
Yeah, maybe she's been standing there for like 30 minutes.
Oh, poor baby, Lakota, man. You should have went and standing there.
I had to see the camera, so I could. But yeah,
Oh.
this is the effect. I just kind of like inverted it to go the opposite way since the wind.
That's pretty cool. It's nice work, guys.
He had a fan also on me.
I know
Right.
the app wasn't free. I used Premiere Pro, which is quite expensive, but I have like an older full version of it, so I don't have to pay the constant monthly fee.
You got a monthly fee on that? Damn.
On Premiere Pro, like it's Adobe, what is it called? Creative Suite or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, CS6 is the last one to not have a monthly rate, I think.
Yeah, I have a
Also, the
I have
newer one has.
CS 5.5, and then I have After Effects CS4.
It's because
So
he
the
has
new one.
an
So
old
the new one, you
iPad.
don't have to pay the monthly. The new one.
No, the new one you do. CC Creative something. Adobe Creative Suite. It's creative. Does anyone know what it is? I know it's
What are you
Creative
asking?
Cloud.
the
Yeah,
Adobe
Creative Cloud.
Creative Cloud. That's what it is. Because it's all online.
No, but yeah, like 2018 onward, yeah, it's monthly,
Yeah.
mandatory.
Well, you can. I have
Really?
I have the yearly one.
Yeah, you can get
Oh,
a yearly
excuse me.
subscription and pay it monthly, or you can pay it yearly. I think yearly takes off of some amount, but it's like still it's quite expensive, I think.
Yeah, every year my bank flags it because I never spend that much at one time. So I have to call them to like let me use my card again.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
I think it's like 600 for the year.
I was
No,
like, you don't
it's-
have this
it's
much
three-
money. Why are you? Why
It's
is your
360. It's 360, I think, or 360.
Okay. For the year.
It's not that bad. It's like they raised it a few times, so it's not great because
Yeah.
they have a monopoly over it, but
Right.
Mm,
it's not that bad.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm thinking of all the apps or something then. So I know you can get all of
No,
them.
I have like the whole shebang.
Oh, okay. I don't know then.
That's like for everything.
Nice.
Yeah, Creative Cloud is like Photoshop and After Effects and
Premiere Pro.
media encoding.
Yeah, and a bunch of ones that like no one's ever heard of too.
Yeah. But yeah, that's what I use. I use my version of that, 5.5. But yeah. Does anybody have any questions? Green screening. The other thing is, whenever you're green screening, I tried to get Priscilla as far away from the green screen as I could, but then we ran into the problem of space, and like so we did an 85 millimeter lens to make sure. This is actually I brought the camera back a lot, but I was a lot closer than this. to make sure that the green was covering the whole frame, because when you're doing green screen, another thing is it was hard. At first I had her walking in from the right going left, but the green screen wasn't taking up the whole frame. And so you could see like the corners. And when she came into frame, it made it really difficult. So when you guys are doing green screen, try to get the whole screen in frame. It makes it a lot easier. I actually have a cloth one that I probably should have used, but I didn't really feel like doing it. So I just did the pop-up one. And that that made things a little more difficult. So if you guys are doing green screen, try to get the whole frame, the background to be all green, because that'll make it so much easier than using garbage mats and all that sorts of stuff to get out the edges. Because I would have had to key around Priscilla a bunch if I was trying to use the same footage we did at first. And then just, it's easier when you have more space, of course, because then you have room to put lights. We didn't have space on the left side, so I just did a light from the right. Luckily it worked, but I was afraid it wasn't going to, because you can kind of see right here, there's a little bit brighter spot on the right, which is why we tried a few different ways of like with the light off and with it on. But the bigger your space is for it, the better it's going to be, because the more freedom you're going to have to where to put your camera and how bright and where to put your lights and all of that. But we had this very narrow space, so we can only put lights to the right of it. So just be aware of all that when you guys are trying to do green screen as well. Okay, that's good to know. Mel said something to know since you use snow. Snow and confetti are terrible for YouTube compression. So it will show up with lower video quality when you upload it.
Oh yeah, I think I did hear something about that.
Is it because
So
it's
really haven't
small,
seen-
or is it just because it's like blends in?
I think it's just a lot for like it's a lot for it to interpret, like a lot of stuff moving at once. So yeah, I was seeing a video. There's a video on YouTube that explains it.
It's not as bad in my experience if you just use like a simple overlay, but if you're creating particles from scratch, it's much more like complex. It takes a lot longer to render, and also, yeah, it's like easier to run into problems.
Okay.
Like, because you're kind of asking After Effects to almost like do 3D-ish, because After Effects can do certain things like that are technically 3D, like motion graphics kind of things, and particles is like in that ballpark. So it takes a lot longer to render in my experience.
A lot of processing power.
Yeah. For just some lousy snowflakes.
Right. So it's just because it's so many, there's so many particles going on?
Yeah. That's like the same thing for like 3D too. Like anything with particles is just like, because it's so many, it's just like a lot for the machine to remember.
Gotcha. Yeah, I did hear that YouTube kind of, it's something about like trying to copy the frames from the last, copy the frames as much as it can if something's static. So if I was on this shot and Priscilla's the only thing moving, YouTube would try to copy the frames from the fan and just overlay them over and over again, so it doesn't actually have to keep every single frame from the fan, every single pixel from, that's what I mean, copying pixels from frame to frame, so that it doesn't have to keep all the pixels within each frame. It can just keep the pixels from the first and maybe like the 20th and 30th and whatever else to make it less, make there be less information, because Priscilla's the only thing moving in the frame. So I have heard that. So maybe I was thinking maybe that would be why. Since snow's constantly moving, it can't copy anything and it needs to try to, and that's why it would look ugly. But yeah, it was interesting because there's somebody who did it. They like posted the same YouTube video up over and over again to see what would happen. And they started looking like a pixelated cartoon character, and it was, and then they just started looking really ugly.
It was actually interesting because the first person who did it in like 2009 or 2006, like early 2000s. And then MKBHD did it again in like 2018 or 2019. And with like an actual, because the first person that did it with like an older camcorder, I think. And then he did it with with a product red camera, like from his 4K camera compressing that already compresses to like 1080p more and more and more and more and more. And yeah, and he showed, I think it was like 10,000 times or something that he re-uploaded it to show the difference. So yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah. All right. So that was that. That's a green screen exercise. Arden, did you say you had your shot list? Do you want to share it?
Yeah. I didn't do like some of the columns I didn't get to like completing, but I got like the main chunk of them done. Because there were some I also had like questions about. Like I think the main thing was just how to determine how long a shot would take.
Mm-hmm.
So let me.
Oh, okay, cool.
Can you see it?
Yep.
Okay. I don't know if I did this correctly because I just did it based on my storyboard.
Yeah, that's how I did mine.
Okay. So because of that, I have like some that are like 3 and 5 that are like a particular shot, like the same shot will like come up later.
Oh, okay. So with that, yeah, you would make another row for it.
Okay. Is there anything to mark to indicate that this would like that 2 shots are technically the same like shot?
I think you.
If it's just different stuff happening in them with the subjects.
I mean, honestly, you can do whatever you want. It would be your shot list. So in the notes is where I would put that. I would say, like same as number 5. And then
Okay.
once you're coming up with your shooting schedule, you could, kind of put, because I don't know if you're in for it, but we're going to be doing the shooting schedule exercise next, which will be due on August 9th. And we're going to be taking the information from the shot list and our storyboard to make a fake shooting schedule. So yeah, for that, I would just put it in the notes, like same as 3, same as 5. And then in your shooting schedule, put those together since you're going to be in the same area of the room. And you're going to be able to shoot those in sequence, even though they're, shot 5 and 4 or shot 5 and 3.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Oh, I just realized I'm not sharing my whole screen. Hold on. Let me share my whole screen.
Okay.
I wanted to pull up my storyboard next to it. Can you see everything?
Yep.
All right. So I don't know, I kind of have a thing for like ever so slight, what do you call it? Fisheye.
Mm-hmm.
So in my head, I thought what I would either want the establishing shot to be like a slight fisheye, or like at some point, I don't know if it's just like a phase I'm going through. So there's like a wide shot like of the kitchen before Arlene like opens the door and comes in.
Mm-hmm.
So when they both come in, like the camera's completely static. I also realized I have a bunch of like shots that like where the camera is just static, and I don't know if that's a good thing or not, or like a bad thing.
I don't think it just depends like on what you want. Like since the characters are moving around a lot, I don't think it matters as much.
Mm-hmm.
But you could like slow dolly in or something like could help.
I have some that are like that move like corresponding to like what I put for the storyboard. I think the one I didn't focus as much on is like the camera the camera lenses, I don't know, it's kind of a lot for me to like think about at the moment. Like
Yeah.
I don't know how to I don't know how to memorize all of those.
Right.
Maybe I should make flashcards or something.
Yeah, it is difficult to memorize them, especially if you haven't used them yet.
Mhm.
For me,
Yeah,
Even
I only have one camera lens and I don't even remember what lens it is.
yeah, I get that.
Yeah, so
I feel like I tell Coda that all the time, that I understand some of it, but I feel like I
Good
won't understand
question.
everything
You
until
say you
I
have a dolly for the equipment on some of the things that you say are static. Wouldn't that just be a tripod?
I guess I was thinking about it. I'm like, maybe if I wanted just the option to move like gently, like
Just
the
like very
shot.
gently toward or
Yeah,
away.
like there's a couple of these where I'm like I'm slowly zooming out. Yeah, this one I should probably change it to tripod, but like
Yeah, I got you. I was just wondering.
now. I think yeah, the only one that's like I guess I would say is like unique to the other shots is like this scene, or like, not technically scene, but like shot 3 where like she's looking at him and you see the back of his shoulder and then it rotates.
Oh yeah, so it kind of like does a little arc.
Yeah, and then that's kind of like to convey like the change in tone.
Mhm.
And then I realized I did it a couple more times, but like I don't think it'll be, if I were to shoot this, I don't think it would be another arc shot aside from that one.
Gotcha. Hey, so what is ES next to day?
ES?
Yeah. You have it in underneath the right next to shot number.
Whereas
On the
I
left
think
of your
I
shot-
think I
in the
meant
shot list.
extreme close up or something. Extreme close up. Oh wait, no,
to
not
the left of that.
left.
Left
Right
again,
here?
Left again. And left again. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know what this was. I thought when you put this for the sample, I thought you meant like establishing shot as day. And
Yeah.
then it's
So that's
kind of
what
like
I think I did. Well, actually, maybe I did. I don't know. IE would be interior or exterior, and then DN would be.
oh, okay. Then just ignore this. I
Gotcha.
think I accidentally like copied it downward. So it's hard to see because this thing gets in the way. Oh, I moved the folder without even noticing it. Oops. I think the other shot that I personally kind of like a little bit, also because I've done it before in like projects, is like when it's like a static shot on someone's face and then they like move out of the frame, but the camera stays the same.
Mhm.
So that's the one where like for this one, because it's like he's walking off the frame, but like towards Arlene.
So like you stay on the.
You
stay on the frame for a second after he leaves frame.
Yeah. Also, this one, I don't know if this counts as a full shot or a medium shot because she's like on the ground and you can see her knees here.
So I think that wouldn't be a full shot. Would be from the toes out. So that would probably be. I could either be like a medium close up or a medium shot, I would say.
Okay. This is the only one I think I'm not sure about, is like when they're struggling, because I'm like, I was like trying to think about how to convey it in like a manner that would still leave like, what do you call it? Like, where you don't know what to expect.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mystery.
that's yeah, like or like in I don't know the like in thriller. It's like the word is escaping me. Like when you don't know what the next moment will bring. So when they're like struggling, and then he kind of like shoves her to the side, and then that's when she hits her head. Like I don't know. To me, like this one is like not the strongest, but I also couldn't think of a better way for me to convey it because I didn't want like a
So would
full
like he
shot of-
push her out of screen and we just hear like a crack or something?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then you just see like the aftermath. That's what I did because I figured like a slight delay in what happens would leave more like what do you call it? Like
Because then you could
like
like
being at the
kind
end
of
of
show it on his
the-
face more than you do on hers. Like just show
Huh?
his surprise. So I do think that's a good way to do it if you just want to kind of leave the audience a little like without showing.
Oh yeah, maybe just like hold the shot and then show his facial expression when he sees her.
Yeah, like he shoves her, we hear like a and then he's like, his eyes widen and he's just like, huh, and then you see him running toward her and then, kind of put two and two together after that.
Throw a watermelon at the cabinet to like simulate a skull cracking.
Yeah.
Would it make
Sure.
the same
All the
sound?
watermelon pieces.
I
go
don't know if it
everywhere.
would. I've
It
never
would be
heard
like
someone's skull
squishy
crack.
and weird. I mean, that's good. That's very good to hear.
I think you'd have to
probably
watch
could.
some like live leak videos to like get a reference or something.
You could use a walnut.
Some Foley work.
It's
I don't know
very
if a walnut would be the same thing.
How about a walnut squishing into a watermelon?
it's
How about a
very
walnut?
reassuring to
Use
hear
the-
that, Arden.
You use the walnut cracker, and as you
Because
cracking the
then it
walnut,
like at what point would it get like too unrealistic and like cartoony?
Yeah, exactly. Everything else is realistic within that part. It's just a cartoon.
Kind of reminds me of like when I'm watching something and it's like and it takes itself seriously, but it uses like one of those stock like horror screams because
Yeah.
they're too lazy to like get someone to scream.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's like one of my pet peeves. Also this one, I just like the final shot. I had it like on him again, and I don't know if it helps or hurts like the emotion I'm going for because I'm also trying to convey like his selfishness.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I feel like by having because I know about like the whole like focusing on one person and then having everything else blur out can kind of convey someone's like isolation.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it works in this case though. Because it's just him crying.
Because you could like start to feel sympathy for him if that's not.
Yeah, and it's like I don't want that. I
Yeah,
want people to hate him.
right.
So I don't know.
I'm pretty sure they'll hate him either way.
They should,
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
but like
Yeah. You mess with people's
there's
emotions.
many stories of like the author making someone like trying to make as terrible of a person as they can, and then people still idolize that person.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
This is more about the person than it does about. But yeah,
Yeah.
But yeah,
I don't know. If you write a
you filled
compelling
out
pitch,
this thing
but I
pretty
feel
well.
like
Like everything looks like it matches it up, and it besides the ES thing, I think everything else is how I did it pretty much, which I
feel
hope
like
is
that
right.
I feel like that does speak to the talent of the writer, though. If you can create a character that's so despicable yet still manages to be likable in a way.
I mean, yeah, because I know that like it's not good to have like a one-dimensional
Bad
like
guy or evil
villain
person.
because it just would never. I don't know. In
And-
my head, it
And
just
it's not real
really-
either. Like what scares people about serial killers and stuff is that they're human just like us and they appear normal to everybody else. So it's just people are complex and weird and scary and that's what freaks us out the most.
Yeah.
So yeah. But no theological debates. You can continue, dog. Not theological. Moral debates. You can continue, honey.
Yeah, but also like depending on what you were going for, like if you were actually going to make the scene, you could also just add like a part where he's kind of angry at her, like it's her fault that she died. You did this. Look what you made.
I could,
Ah.
yeah, I could make
Look what
like
you made me
one where
do.
he
And so he's
starts
kind
to,
of like crying, but he kind of has like an anger, like
yeah, like
Yeah.
he'll have like a meltdown and then he'll kind of seem like he's starting to lose it a little bit.
yeah,
Yeah.
because he does blame her for it in the end already. So
Look what you made me do. Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, in a little, like, I feel like a little bit when they're struggling, he seems angry.
yeah,
Yeah, he is, because he's like, I did all of this for you and you're missing this guy? Like, what the heck? How dare you
yeah.
miss your husband that I killed?
I didn't originally envision it to be like this, but like when I like was composing this into the shot list, I realized like instead of having this like from his elbows up, I have it like a little bit more like a cowboy, because then I was like, oh wait, cowboy conveying power,
Oh yeah.
trying
Mhm.
to like play more into that, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And also because I'm like, oh, I have so many shots that are just the like just like shoulders to like or like torso up, and I'm like, oh, needed.
Yeah. I kind of noticed that mine was the same, like a bunch of them were the same angle, lens, and stuff like that. And I was like, I wonder if I should have some more different stuff in here or not. But I mean, honestly, like the scene's not that long, so it doesn't really need to have a bunch, I don't think.
Mhm.
Because I feel like once you watch it, if it's too much going on, it's also annoying.
Yeah, it can
So I
be
don't
like
know.
jarring, and I know that, but I'm also like,
Yeah.
don't know if it's like, I guess I wouldn't know until I like started shooting, right?
Yeah.
If it was like, oh, this is boring, better spice it up.
Yeah. Like
Yeah, I feel
take
like
it
there
a
are
little longer.
some things that you actually don't like. There's so many things that seem like they would work on paper, and then you actually go to do it, and you're like, oh, guess not.
Yeah,
Yeah, but I think it's good. Like for me and for you and anybody else who was doing this and started thinking about the shots more, because then you already kind of start thinking like, oh, is this too much of this? And then you might change it, or you might go on set and then already have that in mind, so that if it is starting to feel too repetitive, you know what to do next instead of just figuring it out all on set.
yeah. There's also like trying to have a style,
Yeah.
which I'm thinking about. It's like, how would I have a style while also like not using it in a way that would be like distracting, I guess, from the emotion I'm trying to convey.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but you also don't have to feel like pressure to have like a specific style or a specific niche, because at the end of the day, like a lot of great directors, they talk about how they try not to stick to just one thing, or not to, because it limits them a lot as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, like just doing whatever's the best for whatever story you had in your mind, or however you had it going, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there's another thing I wanted to ask, and I don't know if you can answer it.
Mm-hmm. What's up?
I read somewhere that like Lord of the Rings was shot in like 48 FPS, and I saw this video comparing like 48 FPS versus I think 24. I don't remember if it was 24 or 30, and I could not tell the difference between the two. So I was wondering if you could.
I can. You usually see it more during
Gives you a
shots
headache.
that are like a lot of movement.
Mm-hmm.
They start looking like the more frames you have, the less blur there is.
Mm-hmm.
And our eyes, the reason they chose 24 frames per second for film is because our eyes generally see like around that. We see around 24 frames per second in real life. So if a car is driving by really quickly at 60 miles per hour and you're standing there on the side of the highway, you see a lot of motion blur as the car goes by. And then if you have a camera and it's filming that, they can film up to like, you said 48 frames per second. That's like double. So there's going to be half as much motion blur. And once you watch a screen, since the screen's not moving, our eyes can see the 48 frames at that. So then it looks weird.
Really weird.
And that's why a lot of people don't like it. But a lot of online content actually does 30 frames per second. Or
what about 25? Because I read somewhere that 25 is like the standard or like more popular in Europe.
Yeah, they use a lot. They use 25 frames for films and stuff in Europe a lot.
Is that a noticeable difference?
I don't know. Like I don't know. It's hard to
Oh,
say.
I
I've
can
seen
say
some
one
British
thing.
content, but I don't know if it's weird feeling because of the 25 frames or if it's just because of the way they
So-
shoot it.
So here's the thing. Yeah, I was gonna say, like I watched a lot of British TV when I lived in like New Zealand and stuff, and the way that they shoot and like I didn't know if it was the frames, but now it kind of I kind of suspect that it might have been. It just looks different. Like if you watch a British TV show or a British movie, you can kind of see that the movements are a little different and but the color is also different. So I don't know if it could be necessarily all because of the frames.
Maybe also
But
the cameras.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it
Because
could be like cameras, it could be lighting, it could be a lot of things.
Yeah.
Color.
All I know is that I watched a lot of them and it does seem to have this weird movement.
You
Both
watch
TV
sports-
shows,
You watch
movies.
sports on TV, they usually shoot around like 60 frames per second to catch all the action. So
Yeah.
you can kind of see a difference in there. But honestly, like some people don't notice. If you don't notice it, then it doesn't really matter for you. So, but I just know generally audiences like 24 frames per second for their movies, just because of that weird feeling you get when it's like something that doesn't feel as natural.
Because when your hand is moving, like there were a lot of videos that were showing this. When your hand's moving at 30 frames per second, you
Mhm.
don't see the blur. You just see the hand moving back and forth, and it looks like a really weird motion. You're like, ugh, like it just looks kind of weird. And you can tell that it doesn't really look natural, and it kind of feels like it's other in a way. But and I could feel that before I even knew what it was. So because at some point I was like, are people just being, because I actually did think, are people just being nitpicky or whatever? And then I was like, oh, so that's what it was that was bothering me. So it actually is a thing and it actually does bother me.
Mhm.
I don't know, like maybe, I don't think it would bother everybody. Otherwise it wouldn't be a thing, right? And at the end of the day, there's also the fact of like, a lot of YouTube videos, if I'm not mistaken, shoot at 30, but there isn't much movement in the videos. So I don't know. Maybe it's just with movement then.
Hmm.
Yeah, it
Kinda.
is with movement. Like when they're shooting on a green screen, they usually shoot at a higher frame per second so that it has a better key. So there's less blur because that's hard for a computer to key
Yeah,
out.
hard to key out. Yeah.
So you won't really notice it when it's just like, news or something on the YouTube that they're just in front of a green screen. But if it's something moving a lot, you probably would notice it more just because you'll see like, oh, this does look different than I'm used to seeing in real life.
I think there are comparisons on YouTube if you want to check them out of like the Hobbit with 30 frames and 24 frames.
No,
Like the
48. I think they did 48.
Yeah, it was 48.
Oh, right. Well, you can see comparisons on YouTube, I'm pretty sure, of like the fight sequences,
Mhm.
if I'm not mistaken. And
Yeah,
they
because
kind
the example I saw was just somebody playing with like a watch, so I was like, oh, I can't really tell.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah, I feel like if you were going to tell, it would probably be in one of the fight sequences
Mhm.
more than anything.
Something with a lot of movement. But yeah. But yeah, any other questions or anything?
I don't think so. None at the moment.
Cool.
No, I'm good.
All right. So, last thing I had that I wanted to just quickly go over, I wasn't able to actually look into this, so I was just going to read this. Something called the Daily Production Report. And I believe it's used by the second assistant director usually. When you are on set, they do this report. It's a daily report that they do. So basically say how the day went. Did you guys get done the stuff you were supposed to get done? When was the actual food and meals? How long was this person here? How long was that person there? It's a lot for like that kind of thing for pay and just to make sure everything's going on schedule, I think. But I'm just going to quickly read into this Studio Binder's website. So, abbreviated DPR or just PR, the Daily Production Report, might be the most important documents a producer looks at every day. From video agencies to indie productions, having an up-to-date DPR is necessary for assessing progress, catching inefficiencies, and tracking each production daily expense. In our post, we cover the process with our free production report template, blah, blah, What is a daily production report? A daily production report is often a two-sided page filled out by a member of the production and contains key information about the shoot day. It summarizes who was on set and for how long for pay, payroll obligations for crew, scenes you shot and how much media you used for it to do it, new release forms, unexpected expenses, delays or accidents on set. If you have your own production report template, some elements may appear in a different order. The important thing is that they all share similar elements. There is no absolute standard for it. Because daily production reports can be different, make sure the first assistant director, unit production director, unit production manager, line producer, and producer all approve your daily production report template prior to the start of production. So just make sure everybody's on the same page of this thing's going to work for what you guys need, because they're going to be the ones overviewing it, not the ones filling it out, but the ones looking at it at the end of the day to keep up with their own reports, pretty much. And these are probably only used for like more higher budget productions when you have a lot of people and a lot of stuff. Lower budget's probably not going to even use this, or if they do, it's probably going to be on a lesser scale with less information than you would on a bigger set. But the bigger the set, the more information you're going to have to fill out and the more dedicated somebody will be to this kind of thing. Polished daily production report also serves as a legal document for what took place on set that day. This is especially important for bigger films that require oversight. All right, that's cool. So if you have somebody claiming something later that they broke their leg on set, you got these production reports and the person who filled it out saying, no, that never happened. They broke their leg out of set. That is on us. That was when they were driving home and they crashed or whatever happened. So it's not on us, something like that. So it also serves as that, as a legal document, apparently. The most complicated part of filling out a daily production report is knowing where to find all the information. Go through that step by step. Fill out the daily production report's header details. First few lines will have the production office, including their company name, the address, phone and fax numbers, the project, whatever the title of it is. If it's a TV series, include episode number, the date that it was shot, the shooting date, the shoot day. If you're shooting 30 days, which of those days is this one? So if it's day number 3 out of 30, you'll put 3. Start, end date, to start, and an estimated end date for the shoot. So if you are shooting 30 days, you would say, and you're on day 3, you would say 27 days from now, we should be done, that kind of thing. Times, this is when everybody gets to set. This is probably, no, this is definitely about pay. If you're paying people hourly, then you're gonna have all this information in here to make sure, or just if you're keeping track of who gets in late. If a crew member gets in late every day, you might have something in their contract where you dock their pay a little bit, or you might just not hire them next time, or you might kick them out depending on the set. So somebody will be keeping track of everybody. Crew call, the time the crew arrives to set. The shoot call is the time when talent reports to set to begin shooting. First shot is the time that the director first calls action. A meal in and meal out is when meal breaks officially begin and end. So if you say, this is also a big thing for union productions, because they have to have a meal after, before 6 hours or something like that. So if you say that you're going to have a meal at 11 and you end up having it at 11:30, then they put it on this production report, and that might affect how much it might make you have another expense or something like that. But it's obvious that these should be truthful. Whoever's using this should be truthful in all the information they're doing, because that could be a big thing if they're lying on this sheet just because you're trying to avoid some fees or something like that. So make sure somebody is on there actually filling out the correct information, even if it's going to be worse for you later on for maybe some expenses or something. Camera wrap is when the first AD calls, that's a wrap. That's the end of the day. Crew wrap is after the crew has packed up all their gear and put it away. That's another thing about pay. And then last man, the time when the very last person walked off set for the day. So that could be anybody from the production on set. It could be a production assistant that's cleaning up after everybody's done, or it could be somebody in the production office that's filling out paperwork and then leaving. So really the person filling this out probably has to be there the very last moment because they have to wait for that last person to leave. So that's also something. Whoever's filling this out needs to know that they're going to have to stay until the end, it seems like. Locations and lead crew. Locations is filling in the street address for each location you shot that day. And then production crew is the names and contacts for lead crew who worked that day. And that's also about pay and about what locations are done. Generally, you can find locations and production crew on a day's call sheet. But they have to keep track of who actually came. Just because somebody's, called that day, they might not show up. They might call out sick or something. So that's something else they have to keep track of. Media usage, the number of cards used, the total number of cards that were used that day. Previously shot, the useful number to put here is not how many cards were used, but how much data in gigabytes has been used since the start of the shoot. Get this number from the previous day's production report. So that's just like how big this whole thing's going to be and how much editing it's going to take, probably, I guess. Shot today, gigabytes. Calculate how many gigabytes was shot that day. Total to date. Sum up the last two figures together. This calculates the total number from the previously shot and the total number that's shot today to make total to date. How many gigabytes you guys have shot. This calculates the total amount of computer storage that the production has used so far. This will help production anticipate hard drive and backup storage requirements for the rest of the production. So that's what it's used for. If you start running out of room because you thought you would need a 50 gigabyte hard drive and then you're like, oh crap, we're going to need a 300 gigabyte. We're running out quick. Or, if you get a 300 and you're like, oh, we're still good, then you just keep that one. Card details, card number, list all the data card numbers used by your camera department today. Footage description, describe what footage they recorded to that card, include the capacity in gigabytes in the description, and if you filled the card to its capacity. Audio notes, fill in any information relevant to your editor about sound. Was sound properly synced? Were the takes numbered properly? Did you miss a slate on take 3? That all goes here. If there's any problems. So basically, I guess if there's any problems with anything, you write it in here so that production knows who messed up, where they messed up, and what they're going to be missing once they get to editing. And so they can start figuring everything out beforehand, I guess. Equipment and tech notes. If your camera department used special equipment, or if crew had trouble getting something to work, this is where it's formally communicated to production. Ask the camera department, Best Boy Grip, and Best Boy Electric for any notes they may want you to include in the daily production report. So that's if they need new equipment, they have a note of it. Timesheets for crew and talent. At the bottom of the first part of the production report template, you'll find a list of the major crew or talent whose times you need to track. You should customize this section of the template to match your production's needs. The timesheet section of this production template is fairly straightforward. Position is the crew's position or talent's role, the name of them, what their name is, Travel, if the production needs to account for travel time to set, note it here. Find out from your line producer if this is necessary and how production would like it recorded. So certain sets will probably need this, certain sets won't. Depends. It also probably depends if they're paying anybody to travel. Depending on who they are, they might pay them to come out if they live away instead of or if they're coming from, instead of staying at a hotel, if they're coming from an hour away, they might put that in their travel to pay them. We'll pay you gas or we'll pay you mileage or something. Time in is when they came to set. Time out is when they left. Overtime, the number of hours and minutes that this person has worked past their budgeted day. Check with your line producer as each production may have different contractual structure for how overtime is defined. Explanation of overtime. If overtime is due to anyone, production will want to have a reason for it. You don't need to go into details, a simple word or phrase to describe the reason for the overtime. If there's more to say, save it for the comments section at the end of the production report. So it looks like a lot of the stuff you can get from your call sheet, and then you can ask some of the departments for some of the other stuff. How to fill out the back of the daily production report template. Congrats, you made it through the front of your production report. Now flip it over. There's an entire backside to fill out too. Fill out the header again. The first step is to fill out the project header again. You might be tempted to skip this, but don't. Although the daily production report format is meant to be double-sided, these reports get photocopied onto single-sided pages. So you want to make sure each page identifies the project and the shoot day. The release log for appearances, talent release log. The appearances section is where you know any depiction releases, aka talent release forms, you filled out over the course of the day. Hopefully your cast has completed paperwork by the time production happens, but not always. Background talent often fill out their paperwork on set. Sometimes the production pulls people off the street to be extras in the scene. Those extras must all fill out depiction releases before they're dismissed, and those releases can be noted here. If any releases are missing, it's important that you note it here. Production needs to know if there'd be any trouble down the road with clearing footage. So you get 50 background people in, one of them leaves before you get them to say, hey, yeah, you can use my image. You would note it here. Other than that, you just note who actually was there and if you filled out any release forms with them. Same thing, location release forms. If you did it on set, if you're getting a new location or whatever, then you fill it out here. So this is basically just like an overview, I guess, of everything that's going on. Very summarized version of all the different forms, and so that if anything gets lost, they have, the note of it at least. Payments, the next section in our daily production report is payments. Often during the production day, small things have to get purchased or paid for. In this section, all those small purchases are recorded. So somebody, oh no, we need to go buy some tape or some bandages for this scene. She's a medic. Let's get her some fake stuff. Like go to the store, buy a few things. Here's where you would put it, like why it's there and what they're paying for. Catering. In this section of the daily production report, note the number of meals that were consumed. Caterers on larger productions typically charge per person. On smaller productions where caterers might provide an informal buffet style meal, the catering section might not apply. So if it's a larger one, they're gonna, I guess they do it by people if it's larger, and then like if there's 100 people and compared to 200 people, they get more money if it's 200 because they're putting more food out there. So this is where you keep all that information in. Record the meal times under in and out. Record the total number of meals ordered for the day. For plate count, you'll need to physically count the number of people eating. A reliable way to do this is to stand at the catering line and count how many people pick up a plate. So whoever's doing this wouldn't be able to eat until everybody else gets their plate and then count themselves in it as well. So they'd have to stand off to the side and count, and then they also have to be there till the end of the day to make sure whoever's leaving. So they have to be there the whole time. They have to be there at the beginning and the end. So it has to be somebody that is going to be reliable. And like I said, it's usually the second assistant director. And you want to make sure if you have enough people to have this, that person's going to show up early and leave late just because they need to get all this information. So they have to be reliable on that. Know which caterer supplied food that day. Some productions get food from multiple caterers, so it's important to keep track. The substantial section is where you note what substantial food items were offered between meals. These are not your typical craft service items. These are prepared snacks to help your cast and crew get through the period between meals. They are usually offered by craft services, but are occasionally provided by the caterer. Production report comments. Every variation of the daily production report format should have a comment section. This section is where you explain anything that impacted the efficiency of the day. Cast and crew absences, delays, weather, equipment malfunctions, any unusual circumstance that might have caused delays. This is also the section where any injury or insurance claim needs to be properly listed. Insurance adjusters will often request a copy of the daily production report when a work-related claim is being investigated. It is important to list every injury. Sometimes an injury will appear to be minor, but complications may develop later. Don't let a crew member tell you it's no big deal. If it happened on set, it needs to be listed in the daily production report. When filling out the comments, try to anticipate the questions productions might have. Why did we run into overtime? Why did we have to buy that last minute thing? What happened to Maria's hand? Answer those questions briefly but thoroughly in the comments section. Even if there are no obvious repercussions, try to notate anything unusual. For example, even if an actor arrived late but you caught up and wrapped on time, it still should be noted that they arrived late. Get the signatures, including your own. See where it says on-set representative, that's you, usually. Make sure your AD and your assistant director and UPM or unit production manager are comfortable with the document. Sign above the line to affirm the accuracy of everything you've recorded once all changes have been made. Get the production manager's signature on the next line, then deliver the form to the production office. You're done. Who handles the daily production report? A daily production report is often filled out by the second assistant director. All right, I thought so. But it must be approved by the first assistant director and the unit production manager or managing line producer. Successful productions implement a handoff system to ensure that two people aren't working on the same section of the daily production report at the same time. The handoff can and is usually digital in the form of an email. In film management software like Studio Binder, you can assign tasks to your ADs and UPMs, attach drafts, blah, blah, blah. Check it remotely. What's the purpose of this thing? Daily production report helps producers keep track of money and resources. It's a black and white record of how on time and under budget the production is. If your daily production report shows that significant portions of the crew had to work more hours than expected for the day, the producers know they need to make adjustments to future shoot days to keep the film from going over budget because of overtime. So it's usually better for a big budget to extend the amount of days than it is to have them work overtime, because overtime is time and a half, so it's a lot more money. If your shooting schedule called for 5 scenes and you only shot 2, the producer knows there's a problem. You'll either need to catch up on future days or do some serious rethinking about the schedule. Daily production report is a legal, legal record of production. You will archive it in the production wrap binder and keep it for the life of the film. This is why it's important to fill it out accurately and have a unit production manager or line producer sign off on the details. All right. Does anybody have any questions about any of that?
That's a negative.
What?
And I said, no, sir.
Oh, okay. But yeah, so that sounds really important. I didn't know what it was yet, so I just decided to read through it with you guys. But it sounds like it's just to keep track of everything and have a summarized version of what happened that day. And then I guess
That's
also
very
legally.
informative. Yeah. That's a lot of things, man. That's why it's like you really gotta have your I's dotted and your T's crossed. There's a lot of paperwork,
There's a lot of different forms that have to be filled out and paperwork that has to be done. Yeah, because there's so many things that can happen. So yeah, it is crazy. But all right, guys, that was everything. Like I said, we're going to be starting our shooting schedule exercise based on the shot list and the storyboard exercise that we already did. So that will start today, and it's due Monday, August 9th. So that's about 2 or 3 weeks from now. Let me see. 1, 2. That's 3 weeks from now. So you have 3 weeks. If you guys need help, I can, ask any questions you need about the shooting schedule. We'll try to send out some information. Also, I already sent out the form, and if on that form, I believe I have like a help tab that kind of explains what each little thing is. So if you're struggling with that, or if you're planning to do the shot list after today, the shot list that I sent out also has the tab that says like help, and then it shows what every single thing is and what it means. So we'll be doing that and the scene mimic number 2. Those are both going to be due Monday, August 9th. All right. And then we only have a few weeks left. We have about a month left for the semester, and then we'll be starting our next semester September 6th. Well, maybe not. September 7th, I think. But we'll see. Anyway, good night, everybody. Thanks for coming.
Good night.